Excited to be here with Evan Brand. Today, we are going to be chatting all about the gut connection with urinary tract issues, UTIs, and yeast infections. Really excited to dive into this topic. This is a common female topic that we deal with. I mean, men deal with UTIs as well, but men have a longer urethra area, so it's harder for men to have UTIs. Women have a much shorter urethra, so bacteria can make its way up to the urinary tract and much faster and easier. So probably more of a female issue, but we're going to dive in. The physiology is similar between the two. So men listening will still get something out of it as well. Evan, how are we doing today?
Hey, doing really well. And so looks like about 90% infection in the bladder, 90% of these cases of these infections of bladder, urethra, ureters, and kidneys, it's all related to E. coli, which of course E. coli are in your poop and can generally just take route up that way, and they can migrate and populate within the urinary tract. And so women obviously know these symptoms if they've had it, but it's you have to urinate more frequently. It's painful urination. It could be pressure in the pubic area. It could be fatigue. Of course, it could go more severe into kidney injury, but most women are usually so miserable before they get to that point that they end up doing some sort of conventional treatment. So why don't we just talk about the conventional approach? Because I think it's great to highlight what people are doing and then what we're doing differently that we may argue is a far more sustainable solution without the side effects. So
Yep.
antibiotics are going to be huge. And we've got some statistics on this. Antibiotics are prescribed for 33% of women to combat a UTI before the age of 24. But of course, these synthetic antimicrobials are not without short and long-term consequences.
I'm going to just share one thing here on screen just so everyone can see. So you can see the female anatomy right here is the urethra. Here's the bladder. So you can see very short distance from the urethra to the bladder. You can see here in the male anatomy, right, much longer distance to get up here. Obviously, in the urinary tract, you're just typically with the UTI, it's the bacteria that's making its way up here, okay, into the urinary tract that's causing the infection. Like Evan already mentioned, that's mostly going to be bacteria, right? Usually on the UTI side, it's going to be E. coli. There can be some Pseudomonas. That's mostly E. coli. And so it's really easy for women to get a bladder infection because you can see it goes up faster. Again, things like birth control pills we'll talk about and antibiotics really shift the urinary pH and the intestinal pH, which has a major effect on the bladder and the urinary tract, and it makes it easier for bacteria to grow. So that tends to be why women are a little bit more susceptible in that. Definitely for bladder infections, obviously, but in general, you're going to see that with birth control pills because of how estrogen affects the pH. And then also women, when they menstruate, right, just that whole vaginal area, right, they're sloughing off that endometrial lining, all that blood flow does shift that whole entire area to be way more alkaline because blood's around 7.3 pH. So it does shift that whole vaginal tract to be more pH, higher on the pH side, which can increase other bacterial infections more on the vaginal side. But hopefully that helps. Any comments on that, Evan?
Yeah, it's totally interesting. And this is stuff that maybe you didn't pay attention to in school and biology class, but now in adulthood, it's a lot more important. And I think people just don't even understand the anatomy of it. And this is something that, according to the research here, 25% of people treated for UTI, they will experience a recurrence 6 to 12 months later. So, I mean, that's a quarter of these people that now have another UTI, and they just go on this merry-go-round. And of course, every time you go on these antibiotics, you're damaging the mitochondria, you're damaging your gut microbiome in total. So this, uh, it's not just this one thing that you're doing; it's the sum to your system, and it can really add up.
Yeah, when we deal with urinary tract issues, I kind of look at, okay, you have yeast issues over here. They intermingle, right? And how the different things happen. You have bacterial issues over here, right? So your UTI issues are primarily bacterial, right? Affecting the urinary tract. You can have BV, bacterial vaginosis. That's another bacterial issue, usually Gardnerella bacteria in that one. That's affecting the vaginal canal. So a little bit different, right? Different, same general area, different anatomy per se. You're going to have a similar sequelae of issues affecting it, right? The big difference with the BV issue is you're going to get the potassium hydroxide odor, that's kind of the fish smell. That's what the bacteria in the vaginal canal does. It creates that potassium hydroxide. That's the fish odor. You're not going to quite get the odor with a UTI, but you will have the burning during peeing. So that's going to be the big differentiating factor. Sometimes more odor on the BV, but sometimes you can have none. And then, of course, more pain during urination on the urinary tract issue. And then if that's continuing to be left up, that bacteria will eventually continue to go north and eventually hit the bladder. As you can see, that anatomy is pretty short on video here. But one of the big common issues is, I would say, like the big three, anytime I look at these problems, they tend to be the same. It's going to be a combination of antibiotic use. So we're wiping out a lot of the good flora in our intestinal tract, which also affects the vaginal or urinary microbiome. And then that affects the beneficial probiotics that actually make hydrogen peroxide. Like probiotics actually make hydrogen peroxide, which is antibacterial. They'll make different acids, glucuronic acid. They'll make acetic acid, different acids that actually help keep the microbes in check. They make hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, and it keeps a lot of the bad bugs down. So the first thing is we have a wiping out of the beneficial flora. That also can drive yeast overgrowth too. So the same thing where it wipes out the good stuff, the beneficial probioflora, the probiotics, the bifidobacter, the lactobacillus, the different species within the bifidobacter and lactobacillus, right? There's reuteri, there's casei, plantarum, lactis. These are all beneficial species, okay? That keeps the bacteria in check, but also when you knock down a lot of the good stuff, that can also cause this rebound overgrowth in yeast. And that's why a lot of doctors today, even on the conventional side, tend to give an antifungal after an antibiotic in a lot of their female patients because they see a lot of these symptoms happen frequently.
Wow. And you're mentioning the antibiotic that starts this whole cascade, and that's not necessarily the antibiotic to treat an existing UTI. And then we're talking about these recurring UTIs. We're talking antibiotic for something simple. Like I've heard of some women going in for a dental cleaning or
Yep.
something, just something that seems benign. And then boom, the antibiotic just really force them to take another fork in the road with their gut health. And then, of course, the vaginal health's affected.
Exactly. Now, with urinary tract issues, I mean, there's simple things, right? Sometimes just after intercourse, after sex, just not peeing. Sometimes that the sperm and the semen being up there can kind of create some issues with bacteria. So, urinating after sex can be very helpful. You'll see it with younger kids, just wiping the wrong direction, right? Essentially, wiping back to front and bringing some of the bacteria in the stool into that urinary vaginal area can be a problem. Sometimes different contraceptive methods like that involve like a spermicidal intravaginally can sometimes mess up the milieu of flora in the vaginal tract. Having bladder stones or kidney issues can sometimes having problems. Going in for a surgical procedure where they put in some kind of a catheter, those are going to be way more unlikely. But just kind of given the gamut of those across the board. And then of course, the antibiotic exposure, and then I would even say just too much sugar, too much carbohydrate. A lot of the bacteria like acellular, easy to digest, refined processed carbs. So more carbohydrate, more sugar, more grains, more flours are definitely going to work, increase those microbes, kind of having a feeding frenzy, if you will.
And how can you find this out? Well, there's easy to do at-home tests that you can buy for less than $10. You can do these test strips at home, these urinary test strips. And if generally you see a dark purple, you've got a big issue. And so it's something that people should have on hand if you've suffered for a while. I know a lot of women, they just hate having to go to the doctor's office and get tested, and then they leave with another antibiotic, and then they're on this merry-go-round. So we talked about the conventional approach. That's really as far as it goes.
So
Antibiotics.
with the test strips, I think most of them are primarily looking at either immune cells in the urinary tract. So I think a lot of times with yeast or bacteria, they're looking for like leukocytes or leukocyte esterase. They're looking for bacteria, or I'm sorry, immune cells in there. I know some of the yeast ones are looking at pH. So they're looking at a more alkaline type of pH. The more alkaline the pH moves from 6 to 7 to neutral, right? Neutral's around 7 into the 7-ish range. That tends to say that, okay, we have more yeast issues, or we're starting to move back in the direction of bacteria if we're starting to see some of these leukocytes moving into the urinary tract.
Yes, it's kind of an indirect marker, right? You're looking at those leukocytes, and that's what you would be seeing in terms of like the light purple, dark purple, extreme purple on the test strips.
Yeah, so they're looking at the immune system starting to come in there, and obviously with a BV issue, bacterial vaginosis, they probably need a swab to see what's going on there, see if it's like a Gardnerella or a Pseudomonas or a Klebsiella, what the bacterial species is. Now, typically with yeast issues, with yeast infections, primarily going to be Candida or Candida subspecies. With BV, it's primarily Gardnerella, and with UTIs, it's more going to be E. coli typically.
Now, here's the cool part. Are you ready to talk about some of the transition? You hit on the diet piece a bit, sugars, processed things. So maybe we should hit this first, and then we'll talk about like the functional strategies and that kind of thing. You and I were talking about this before we hit record, that so many people, they want the solution to an issue like this, but they haven't even got the foundations dialed in regards to their sleep, in regards to stress, proper hydration, nutrient density, lack of antibiotics if possible. Just those foundational pieces a lot of times are going to keep women in a place where they're not going to end up with this problem. So if you're just tuning in, somehow you found us and you've not been listening for a while, and you're just now hearing us and you're looking for this magic remedy, you got to make sure you get the foundations in order first, because in theory, this should not happen if you've got the foundations dialed in.
Correct. And so, first thing out of the gates is just foundational things like hydrating enough. Because if you have a UTI issue, just having constant good water flow and also, with some electrolytes in the water, that can be very helpful. Kind of having an antibacterial effect and just keeping that good water flowing. The solution to pollution is dilution. So that can really help kind of keeping things flushed down. Obviously, being very careful if you're having antibiotics. Why did you have the antibiotics? Was it for routine preventative things? Was your diet off and your immune system's weak and you got sick and you needed it? Why? Right. So you do want to look at that. And if you've had chronic antibiotic use, what does the bacteria in your gut look like? Because odds are, if your bacteria or yeast imbalances are present in the vaginal tract or the urinary tract, you probably also have issues in the digestive tract. You may have SIBO, you may have bloating, you may have gas, you may have poor digestion, low enzymes, low acids, H. pylori, parasite infections. You may have to look deeper in the intestinal tract and actually work on knocking down some of those microbes, fixing the gut, and then really work on repopulating some of the good bacteria after the fact to really work on fixing the gut. Because you start to fix the gut pH and the gut bacterial milieu, that does help improve IgA levels, and that does help with the immune system in the vaginal area as well.
Yeah, well said. So if you're coming in with a UTI, most of the time, there's going to be more than just a UTI present. There could be, as you mentioned, a number of. We have someone coming in and UTI or recurrent UTI is one of their complaints. I can tell you, 100%, you and I are going to want to run a stool panel, and we're going to run organic acids, because we're going to want to look at the whole microbiome, and certain things may get missed on the stool, and the urine should fill in the gaps. Like we might find candida on the urine and it got missed in the stool. So stool and urine, these are things that your typical doctor and your lab locally is not going to run. They might run a urine panel, but this is not the same urine panel as an organic acids. We're talking something far more advanced, far more comprehensive, whereas the urine panel locally is primarily just going to look for bacteria or maybe leukocytes. As you mentioned, you might get a positive or a trace or something like that, but it's not a detailed description of what's going on. You mentioned several bacteria too, like Klebsiella and Prevotella. We can identify these on a stool panel. So that's why it's so important to get the data. And could we just throw a woman on an herbal UT formula? We could, but we want to do our due diligence. We want to do a good workup on these people too, to make sure that we're not just cut straight to the chase and we skip something huge that we would have found on these tests.
Right. I mean, a lot of the antibiotics that are going to be used are going to be like Bactrim or any of these kind of Augmentin's a big one. Bactrim, Augmentin, those are a couple. Definitely be very weary of any of the fluoroquinolone families because they have significant side effects regarding tendons and ligaments and mitochondria. So be really careful of using fluoroquinolones. Of course, when we work these patients up, we're doing a really good history so we understand how everything came to fruition regarding the UTI, yeast infection, or bacterial vaginosis. We're trying to understand it, right? Obviously, with certain things like yeast infections, BV, like making sure things are dry in that area. If you're in a very moist environment, keeping things dry helps. Yeast and mold love a very moist environment. So keeping things dry tends to be very helpful. Soaping up some of those areas be very helpful too. That you can use a really nice, as long as the mucosa is not like really irritable, you can use a really nice sulfur soap, especially in the outside area. If there's anything yeasty on the outside area, anything internally, there's definitely internal things that we can do. So on the internal side, just getting water in there may be helpful. Using raw cranberry juice, not anything with added sugar, but raw organic cranberries, 4 ounces at a time with diluted some water is pretty good. You can drink that. That's going to have a nice low pH in it, which helps prevent the bacteria from growing. It also helps with some D-mannose in the cranberries. Can also internally do things like different berberines can be very helpful. That's excellent. Boric acid's another excellent compound. You got to be careful with these by and large by itself because they can be a little bit irritating. So you want some nice things that provide some moisture, whether it's aloe or shea butter. There's different like moisture compounds that can provide the moisture so you don't dry out that tissue as well.
How about some of the suppositories? Have you used those before? I've seen some
Yeah.
of these like pH balancing suppositories. Those have been
Yep.
helpful. Also, I think it's integrative. I know Aviva Ram did a talk or an article on it one time. There was a specific probiotic that we had used. I think it was called Proflora that we had used that was supposed to be inserted vaginally. And that was like a game changer for BV and some other related issues. So not only taking oral probiotics, but vaginal probiotics as well. That has been a game changer for many women. It's not something we have to go to a lot, but it is a good tool if someone just in bad shape and the conventional strategies failed them or made them worse, then something like these vaginal probiotics are helpful. So just to be clear, there's some strains specifically for vaginal health that are taken orally, but then there's also other blends that you can insert vaginally, and the women have reported great success with those.
Yeah, and you want to make sure the hydration's there, whether it's aloe or beeswax or shea butter or coconut oil. Some of those can be helpful. Again, the antimicrobials that we may use would be the boric acid, some of the neem, some of the different berberines. And again, we may want to also add in probiotics in and around there. Can be really helpful. In regards to like yeast issues or UTI issues, you got to be very careful because when women menstruate, well, more with yeast and more with bacterial vaginosis because that's affecting the vaginal canal more. When a woman menstruates, that blood's like 7.3, right? So that's a very neutral to alkaline. So when you're menstruating, you're taking that acidic pH in the vaginal tract and you're moving it back up to a more neutral pH when you menstruate. And so that's going to actually make it easier for bacteria and potential yeast to grow. And you could have a BV issue or a yeast issue that can happen due to your menstruation. And so when you're already more susceptible in that vaginal area, you may want to actually do a suppository in and around your period because that pH is going to move up and that can start to cause microbes to grow. So some women have to be more careful with that, if they have a chronic yeast or bacterial issue, just to make sure it doesn't come back.
I want to hit a few more herbs and then I want you to riff on the birth control conversation because I think that's huge. So you mentioned berberine and some of the other related herbs. Also, we'll use the antifungals at the same time. So you and I have our own custom blends that we use. And so we may use something like Paul d'Arco, French tarragon, horsetail, olive leaf, things that have antifungal and antimicrobial properties. So that's the cool thing about what we do is, as you mentioned, Bactrim or some of these other conventional strategies, it's a big sledgehammer, right? It's not a targeted tool. It's one sledgehammer. We don't know exactly what we're going to kill, but it's an antibiotic. We're just going to drop the nuclear bomb into your gut, and we're going to disturb not only your gut microbiome, we're going to negatively affect the production of your nutrients in your gut. We're going to negatively affect your mitochondria. We may knock out the UTI, but as you saw in the papers, 25% of those UTIs are going to come back within 6 months to a year. And so when we're coming in with these antimicrobial herbs, also throwing in antifungal herbs, that's where the magic really happens because there could be a combination, as we talked about. It's rare to see just a UTI. It could be a combination issue, meaning there's some candida, there's some bacterial problems. Maybe there's parasites in the gut too. Maybe there's H. pylori, like you mentioned. And so that's the fun part is when you take a blend and you're working people through this protocol, you're now knocking 4, 5, 6 issues out all at once in one fell swoop. When they originally just came in with the complaint of UTI, when you do the labs, you uncover so much more. And that's where the beauty is.
Yep,
What do you
100%.
got
Here's
here?
one study here looking at the contraception using contraception or control pill. So usually this is like a synthetic estrogen mostly, right? An ethinyl estradiol, and looking at the influence on the vaginal microbiota. And so really the take home here is out of the gate. The vaginal state was significantly modified. Hormone administration apparently corrected the alterations, but has the potential of being an accurate tool. Where is it right here? There it is. I'm sorry. Statistical significance associated between this is contraception and normal microbiota was observed after 3 months. When the vaginal microbiota was modified at 6 months, inflammatory reaction was detected in almost half the women. So only 7 women, but it created an inflammatory state in the vaginal microbiota.
Okay,
And you
so
can
just to
see
confirm,
yeast,
you're
and then
saying
also yeast colonization was increased, and it created an inflammatory reaction in 3 out of 7 women, and it altered some of the beneficial bacteria in the vaginal area. Now, small study, but you can see, you know, 3 out of 7, it affected this. And this is what we see clinically with a lot of our female patients is some of these things can be affected because it's affecting, one, it's creating inflammation, two, it's causing more yeast to grow and impacting some of the good bacteria. And how does it do this? It does it mostly via pH. It's like
okay. Yeah, I was wondering
if
what
you
the
alter
mechanism.
someone's digestive pH, right? Let's say you give them a proton pump inhibitor, you're going to have all kinds of digestive issues and maybe even nutrient deficiencies that can affect things long term. Obviously, with birth control pills, there's other things they do. They can create issues with nutrient absorption, or they can cause nutrient deficiencies in areas of B vitamins, folate, and also calcium and magnesium. So we see a lot of women that do birth control pills have a lot of those nutrient problems. So if you're on a birth control pill, ideally it's better to use something that's more barrier based, or if you want to set it and forget it method, potentially looking at the Paragard, which is a copper IUD. You just have to make sure you can handle the copper. I find if you want to set it and forget it, the copper tends to be better than the hormones. But ideally, a barrier method, it's not internal all the time. It's probably better. So that just kind of gives you a couple options there.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories about the copper ones too. So, like you said, it could be a problem, but that's
Not
very
not not
interesting.
everyone has problems with it. I mean, women that tend
Okay.
to cramp a lot, they could have, because that cramping, that IUD being in that uterus, sometimes that can cause pain. But it just depends kind of where women are. Some parents maybe pushing their kids to have a method because they don't want their kid getting pregnant, and maybe they feel like they aren't responsible enough at maybe 18 or 19, and they want to set it and forget it method. If you want that, I would recommend doing the Paragard before you go to a hormonal method.
Yeah, for sure. And not to mention too, we're already in a society of so much estrogen dominance. And you and I've done podcasts about the impact of gut imbalances and issues with the glucuronidation pathway, which is then causing further issues. So we could see this estrogen problem in a woman who's not on birth control. You could still see that manifest in this way. And so that's why you're getting off of the xenoestrogens, you're cleaning up your makeups, you're getting rid of plastics, you're fixing your gut,
Yep.
you're improving detoxification. All these other functional medicine strategies are directly impacting your ability to beat this situation. So, we always want people to look at the big picture. Don't just look for the magic, like berberine polyarco remedy. And there was a question here in the chat: how many polyarco capsules is needed for someone who has candida in their gut? I have no clue because we rarely use it in isolation. We're always going to use it in a
Yeah.
blend. And
A blend.
I doubt you have just candida. You've probably got other issues too. So,
Yeah. Someone, when they come in, they could have a combination of a little bit of a bacterial, a yeast issue, UTI thing. That could be a kind of a combination of 2 or 3 different things happening. This one may be more predominant. So we never want to just go all in on one thing. Again, if someone's having vaginal issues specifically, there's going to be things that we insert intravaginally, like some of the boric acid, like some of the neem or the berberines, and we'll probably interchange in some probiotics, because part of the big problem is you have to get the bacteria flora in the vaginal area back up to where it should be, because it's the good bacteria that will help keep the other bad bugs in check through their natural acid and hydrogen peroxide production.
well said. And so the point I was making is that I don't want people listening and going, "Okay, just give me the freaking remedy. What's the natural urinary tract remedy?" That's what I'm here for. And we've talked about some of those, the Manos, the cranberry, the berberines, the polyarcos, the French tarragon, this whole blend, that may be the solution, but what got you here is important. Have you fixed the other issues that have gotten you here? And so I hope people see the big picture. Sometimes you and I are happy to just go boom, hit the oregano oil, and we're happy to just throw out just this natural solution. But like you said before we hit record, you don't want people skipping out on the low hanging fruit.
Exactly. And so it's always good to do a history. I find the big issue is antibiotics can be a big factor. I also find just some of the low hanging fruit, like the intercourse and the hydration, can also be a big factor as well. You'd be surprised. And so my wife always comes to me. She's like, "Justin, my friend has this issue. What should I recommend?" It's like, well, it's hard. I can't really recommend a lot of things because I don't know much about them. If they're eating like crap and they're not hydrating and they're drinking lots of soda and they've been on lots of antibiotics, I may say, hey, all right, do this uva ursi, but that's going to be palliative and not fix the whole lead up and how everything went down. So the lead up, and I call it the timeline history of how we got to this point, matters so much because, if not, you were just becoming naturopathic doctors that are using nutrients and herbs like MDs use drugs. Now, again, I think that's better because a lot of these things are natural, have less side effects, but still, we want to be holistic and still root cause.
Yeah, well said. That's the problem. There's a difference between naturopathic approach to this issue and functional medicine approach to this issue. So I think you made that clear, which is you go to the naturopath, it's, hey, here's the uva ursi. Functional medicine's going to come in and say, okay, well, how'd you get to the UTI? Oh, you took antibiotics. You're on birth control for 20 years. You had a sexual partner who had extremely poor microbiome health. Maybe there was some
Yep.
issue there. Maybe you had multiple partners. Maybe one of them had H. pylori. You had low stomach acid. You ended up
Yep.
with dysbiosis. Then you got candida overgrowth. Then you did too much alcohol. You love to do wine in the evenings. You ate a little too much chocolate. It's like that's the more investigative route. And that's where people need to be thinking. We've got friends that are naturopaths, good people, but you just got to go deeper most of the time.
Yeah,
So,
and a lot of times too is I'm if someone has chronic issues, I want to know more about their gut because the microbiome has such an impact, especially with IgA and with the overall immune system. So if there's chronic issues in the vaginal area, you have to look up to the intestinal tract. Very
yeah,
important.
and you would say there's got to be some link between the low secretory IgA that you and I are seeing on these stool tests and what's going on with the vaginal microbiome too, right? You would assume that's a
Definitely.
system-wide defense shield that's going to be affected.
Yeah, it's part of the mucous membrane barrier. So mucous membranes in the eyes, the mouth, the intestinal tract, the urinary tract, the vaginal canal. So if we see low IgA issues in the intestinal tract, that barrier is a little bit weaker. Think of the force field. You see Star Trek, they put like their force field up, right? So when the Klingons go to shoot them, it kind of bounces off, right? Think of that force field we have in our intestinal tract and our vaginal canal and our urinary canal that kind of protects. And so probiotics can help. Obviously, getting rid of the dysbiotic microbes can help. Avoiding a lot of the things that create the imbalances to begin with, which would be a lot of the antibiotics or maybe pesticides or GMO foods that produce a lot of antimicrobial compounds too. All those help avoiding those things too.
You know what's happening even in functional medicine world is that everything's becoming isolated. Are you noticing that? Like people are focusing on just the gut. So it's like this leaky gut formula, this leaky gut protocol, and they're ignoring the fact that you just mentioned this IgA, this mucosal barrier is kind of a system-wide problem. So there could be oral, vaginal, gut, all at the same time, all related to the same dysfunction of these force fields being down. I think it's just marketing, right? People just want to market that they're the gut guy, they're the parasite guy, they're the candida guy. I think that's just a marketing problem, but hopefully people are seeing this, and of course if they've been listening to us for months or years, they're seeing that this is a system-wide problem. It's just manifesting in this way.
Yeah, in the functional medicine world, a lot of people market to niche areas and symptoms, which is fine because a lot of people, when they get focused on something, they think they have this issue. They're going into Google or their search and they're typing that issue. So, for you to be relevant and for that person that has health issues to find you, you do kind of have to market to a symptom. But then when you find that person and you talk to them, you want to make sure that their approach is globally where they look at things holistically and you're not seeing the gut person that only deals with the gut and they're not looking at your thyroid or your anemia or your low glutathione. They're not connecting the dots. So you got to make sure they're still able to connect the dots with multiple systems and they're not just focused on one issue. So it's okay for doctors to market to that. You just have to make sure that their philosophy is a holistic philosophy that encompasses everything in there.
Yeah, and holistic spelled WHOLE, a holistic, the whole thing, the whole body, the whole person, not just holistic as in natural. It's got to be the whole piece. And I think that's where I suffered for a long time because I focused on my gut for so long, but I was ignoring toxicity issues. I was ignoring dental issues. I was ignoring tick bite infections. So now I'm like, oh crap, I see the whole picture. And I would have missed that if I just dialed in the gut. So, and
Yep.
that's what you and I do. We've done this over 1,000 times with clients worldwide. We look at the whole
Hmm.
picture. If you're suffering, if you've been through the conventional rabbit hole, or maybe you've been fortunate to avoid the conventional rabbit hole, you don't want to go down it, but you need help, feel free to reach out. Dr. J and I work with people around the world. We can send these labs that we're talking about, stool and urine. These are at home. These are non-invasive. It's rare that we need to do invasive testing, but most of the time these at-home functional medicine tests can be sent to your door. You do them, you send them back to the lab. We get the results. We jump on a call. We run you through them. We interpret those. We make a protocol for you and get you better and get you off the merry-go-round. So if you need
Yep,
help
absolutely.
clinically, feel free to reach out. Dr. J is at justinhealth.com and me, evanbrand.com. And you could reach out, book a call with us. We'd love to talk with you, help you find and fix the root causes. If you just have UTIs and you think that's all it is, maybe you're right, but maybe not. Either way, we're going to help you get to the bottom of it.
Very good. Excellent. So, for women that are listening and kind of want to recap here, first thing, make sure your diet is right. Keeping the processed, refined sugar, grains, flours out makes a huge difference. Omega 6, seed oils in general should be reduced as well. Hydration, make sure hydration is good, good, clean, filtered water, good mineral water, especially if you have more health issues, more minerals in there is going to be better. Next thing out of the gate, urinate after intercourse, those kind of foundational things. If you have chronic gut issues, definitely get your gut looked at. If you're on birth control pills, definitely get your hormones looked at and figure out why you're on them. Most women aren't even on hormone birth control pills for birth prevention. They're on it for off-label issues like acne or headaches or lots of PMS. And so most women could totally get off it because they're not even using birth control pills for the original intention. They're for off-label use. And so that would require looking deeper at the hormones. Next, you can get tested. You can do either a monostat test to look for yeast. You can get those at the drugstore. You can do one of the strip tests to look for leukocyte esterase, or I think it's nitrites in the urine for more of the UTI issues. And of course, if you have a lot more of the odor-like issues, you can get a vaginal swab from your OB or your primary to rule out any of the BV issues as well. Again, similar solutions. Some may be more internal in regards to what we recommend. Some may be more internal, like when you use swallowing pills. Some may be internally, intravaginally. And of course, the more chronic the issue is, the more we have to really support the vaginal microbiome biome with the right beneficial bacteria getting in there internally as well. And then, of course, just keeping up with a lot of the menstruation, because that can really affect a lot of the bacterial issues and yeast issues in the vaginal canal, because it's going to shift that pH from very acidic to more neutral to alkaline at that time of the month when you menstruate. So hopefully that's a good kind of crash course out of the gates, and kind of you guys understand kind of our spitball kind of philosophy and how we look at the whole history and really connect the dots. And we have our little toolbox of all these things, but we just got to make sure it's catered to the history.
And alcohol too. I think we briefly mentioned it, but alcohol's got to go. It's not going to help you. It's going to promote all sorts of issues. It's going to aggravate the immune system. It's going to affect your IgA levels. It may promote more dysbiosis. It may promote more yeast problems. And so I've heard many stories where a woman's like, oh yeah, we went to Napa Valley and we drank wine and ate chocolate and salami and cheese all weekend, and now I had a flare up. It's like, well, yeah, duh. I mean, that's incredibly damaging, everything that you've done. You binged on wine all weekend. So I think wine kind of gets like this. People think that they're not drinking alcohol. Somehow they think they're getting off the hook. Oh, it's just wine. Like, it's so socially cool. It's like coffee. It's like coffee and wine. Like, wine is so accepted into the culture, but it can be a big problem. I tell you, some of those California women, the ones in San Francisco, like, it's part of the culture here. I had one woman argue with me that she didn't want to get off alcohol. I said, well, what if it's going to help your gut? She's like, well, maybe I'll consider it. So sometimes as practitioners, we're having to bargain with people and try to make trades and make healthy swaps. We'll swap it for this and try this. And what if you do a binder afterwards? So sometimes you got to work with people. They're not just in a vacuum. We got to work with them and help educate them so that they're more dedicated to the lifestyle changes. But I just want to mention alcohol because I think a lot of people don't even consider the impact it has on the gut, but then on these flora.
Yeah, a couple things with alcohol. Number one, it's a diuretic, so it will increase the frequent urination and kind of make you more dehydrated. So good hydration helps prevent a lot of that bacteria from growing. Number two, out of the gates, it may be necessary out of the gates for the first month or so as you get things under wrap. There's also healthier versions of alcohol. I mean, you could always get like a Cosmo Martini that has the fresh lime juice in there and cranberry juice. Just make sure it's like not the cranberry with sugar or the lime with sugar. Make sure it's fresh lime or actual juice cranberries with like a nice Tito's vodka. I mean, Tito's vodka is it is charcoal filtered, right? And so it's going to be really clean, and you can get some nice cranberry and lime in there. That should almost be beneficial in a way. Obviously, keep it to a drink or two, maybe once or twice a week max. But once you're better, that may be a good option to add things back in, and just stay away from a lot of the sugary stuff and of course the glutinous drinks, and you'll be in a lot better position.
Yeah, it's a funny thing you have to mention. There's got to be real cranberries because most of the time you go to a bar, it's like that
Oh, it's the
garbage brand
extract.
with the heart, or it's the high fructose corn syrup. Even I've
Concentrate.
seen them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so worst case,
crap.
you can always just do a fresh lime squeezed in there, and see if they have anything that's just a pure extract, and that's a much better way to do it. Of course, drier white wines, and just a good Tito's vodka is always great with just a lime in and of itself. That's an easy way to do it and keep the sugar and junk down, but also keep a nice acidic pH there, which is helpful for the vaginal area.
Yeah, well, hope that helps,
Anything else you want
folks.
to
As
highlight?
we mentioned, no, I think we covered it. So if you need help, we mentioned the links here, Dr. J. That's Justin at justinhealth.com. You could reach out for consults worldwide. Me at evanbrand.com. Either way, we're here to help you guys. We love what we do. We have a blast, and it's fun to educate people. It's fun to empower people and take back your health. And it's possible. Whatever you're dealing with, it's possible to make progress. So just keep your head up, stay motivated. Um, don't always run straight to that antibiotic if there's another way. You may try another solution. If you've been doing this for a decade now and you're still battling it, you're not out of the woods yet, it's time to look deeper.
Excellent. Great chat, Evan. Everyone have an awesome week. We'll talk soon. Take care, y'all.
Take care now.
Bye now. Peace.
Bye-bye.